What a whirlwind life has been for my guest. 3 victories in a 6-week stretch on the Korn Ferry Tour a year ago, on his way to being named the Korn Ferry Tour Player of the Year. Those 3 victories elevated Matt McCarty directly to the PGA Tour. Then what did he do? He won the Black Desert Championship in Utah. Only one other player has ever captured 3 straight victories or 3 victories on the Korn Ferry Tour, went to the PGA Tour and won. That is rare company for my guest today, who's part of the field at the Sony Open in Hawaii. Matt, thanks for doing this. It's good to see you. Have you been able to breathe and reflect and kind of soak it all in last week in Maui and so far this week in Honolulu?
Yeah, it's been pretty whirlwind 6 months, but yeah, after RSM and being home for Thanksgiving, had some time off and it's been nice and got kicked in the teeth last week at Kapalua a little bit, but excited to be here on some flatter surfaces and looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, we haven't seen Kapalua with an absence of wind like that very often through the years. The scoring was bananas. I mean, how would you like to be Colin Morikawa, go 32 under and lose by 3? That's nuts.
Yeah, yeah, I guess, I don't know. Finishing second out there is pretty decent week still, but rather do that than what I did. But yeah, no, it was a good first experience. And, playing against those guys, you just got to be so insanely sharp and, that level, good first experience doing that and very motivating, for the next, season ahead for sure.
It's a little flatter walk on this property at Waialae this week, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, couldn't be any opposite these 2 golf courses. Super hilly, long, like this place really flat, pretty tight. But I like it. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I drove it really well last week. I don't think you really gained much driving. I think everybody drives it well at Kapalua. So hopefully I can, keep myself in the fairway and, give myself a little bit more chances this week.
Have you been able to step back and take a breath and reflect and savor it all and really appreciate and begin to enjoy everything that you've accomplished, Matt, in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, definitely. I think, kind of give myself a little bit of a break and, maybe a little bit sloppy going into last week because of that. But more than anything, I'm just excited to be out here and all these opportunities I have ahead for myself. And just want to play well more than anything. So that's kind of the goal moving forward. And I think last week was very motivating to kind of learn a few things and understand, kind of what I need to do. So, but yeah, looking forward to it. And I grew up watching all these events on TV. I'm really excited to be out here and just competing for sure.
I've heard you mention that you kind of ran out of gas a little bit toward the end of last season. Entirely understandable, right? I'm sure you were kind of looking forward to the offseason. What did you do, and how were you able to recharge a little bit?
That was good. Home for Thanksgiving with the family was great. Went to Florida with my girlfriend's family. Me and her took a trip up to Montana in the snow for a few days in December. And then just kind of, practicing, taking it easy, working out, focusing on just recovering and everything and, feeling good heading into this year for sure.
I know you kind of split some off-season time between Chicago and Scottsdale, right? How does that look?
Yeah, Chicago can't really golf right now, so mainly it's Scottsdale. But no, it's been nice. I've been living up there the last couple of years. My girlfriend's going to PA school at Northwestern, so nice to get out of the heat in the summers. And golf in Chicago is awesome, kind of different style than what I grew up playing in the desert. So it's been a good experience for sure, and it's worked out pretty well. I feel like I've still been able to improve a good amount up there, and get out of the heat, new experience. Chicago's a really fun town, so just enjoying that as well.
By the way, is your girlfriend able to join you last week in Maui or here this week in Honolulu?
Yeah, she was there last week. She had to go back to work this week, so tough trip for her to go back. I think it was like 17 degrees and snowing yesterday, but yeah, no, it was a fun last week, and the family was there, and that's a really sweet event and cool experience and a fun week to kind of start the year with the whole family, and it was awesome.
No doubt about it. I'm glad she got to experience at least one leg of the first 2 weeks in Hawaii. So at the Black Desert Championship, and you finished 23 under to win, were you as comfortable as you looked? And was that a result of having already gained an understanding of how to win because you'd done it 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour? What was it like coming down the stretch on that Sunday in Utah?
Yeah, I don't know how I looked, but I was probably a little less comfortable than I appeared. But no, I think obviously the 3 wins on the Korn Ferry gave me a lot of confidence moving into the season, and I knew that if I kept playing golf like that, I could be competitive out here and that level of golf is, pretty interchangeable, I think. Huge learning experience on the Korn Ferry to kind of get to that point, but then, get out there and good golf's good golf, and just kind of kept telling myself that and literally stick to kind of like my process, my system, just one shot at a time and keep it as simple as possible. And, was able to execute some shots coming down the stretch, which is always a lot of fun,
People who may not have been familiar with the name Matt McCarty may have just assumed that you were just in your first year out there on the Korn Ferry Tour and just kind of exploded onto the scene. But it had been several years since you had played collegiately at Santa Clara. You actually joined the KFT in 2022. Would you characterize yourself as a bit of a late bloomer, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think when I got my driver's license at 16, I was 5'6" and 110 pounds. So grew probably like 6 inches that summer after. My first year out on Korn Ferry, I probably gained about 15 yards of carry since then. So kind of realized that was, not necessarily an advantage that I had and something I needed to improve at. Until I won in Springfield, I'd played, 68 Korn Ferry events, which is, a lot of experience, and it all builds up. And, you honestly take a lot from weeks that you don't play as well, just as much as weeks that you do. So it's definitely a good experience out there, and, kind of learning how to come off college and travel and play 25, 26 events in a season is definitely a big learning curve. And, something that, I'm really thankful of, Korn Ferry Tour for having that avenue for us to do that, for sure.
So while you were competing in those 68 events on the KFT, as you mentioned, did you feel like you were building something? Did you feel like you were growing and developing your game, and you were going to arrive at some point as a winner on that tour?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, kind of just every year for the last probably decade of my life, I've kind of just improved. And, it's kind of the same the last 3 years on the Korn Ferry. I mean, I went my first year out, finished 55th, for a rookie year, pretty solid, made a lot of cuts, had a lot of 40th place finishes and 45ths, but, kind of learning how to travel and compete out there. And then, second year was very close to getting my card, finished 34th, and had a couple close calls. But this last year, even before I got that first win, I was probably in contention, good 3 or 4 times, kind of late on Sunday. And those experiences add up. And when you kind of get that taste of, winning one of these and playing with other guys that do end up winning that week, it's, you kind of see yourself in that same position and just try to visualize that as much as possible.
Who was it who introduced you to the game, by the way, when you were a kid?
My dad, like he, as soon as I could walk, I had like a plastic club in my hand. He was a good player himself. He played Division III golf at the University of Redlands, and but it was like a family thing with my grandpa and him, and just kind of I grew up playing everything, but would always golf in the summer, and just kind of fun, and always had a good family around, but also a good group of friends that would play too, and it was just something always that was fun to do. And you get a little bit better, and you start thinking you can play college golf, and then somewhere during college you're like, oh, maybe I want to turn pro, and here we are now. So it's been quite the journey, but really fortunate to have a lot of good people and a lot of good support around me, for sure.
I feel like there's been some feisty money games between you and your dad in recent years. I'm just feeling that. I'm hearing that from you.
Yeah, it's good. We played on Thanksgiving, but like went first off at TBC Scottsdale that morning, and he refuses to like move up tees. He like wants to see it from the tips, and he doesn't take as many shots as he needs now. So it's not as close. He's got too much pride, but it's still a lot of fun, and he's still a hell of a player. So it's good.
As a dad who routinely gets stomped by his 2 sons, your dad will eventually learn to swallow his pride, Matt. I promise you. He'll be moving up a deck, and if he wants to be competitive with you, I highly recommend it, put it that way.
Yeah, well, I think it's 50-50. I mean, he's upset he's losing, but he's still proud of me. So, like, it's for him, it's a win-win, I guess.
Someone else who was really instrumental in your life when you were just kind of cutting your teeth in the game is your coach, Dave Williams. You guys have been together a long time, right? Since you were a teenager, maybe even a little before that?
Yeah, I think I was like 12, 13 years old. But yeah, I've been going out to Dave forever. I mean, he's much as mentor, philosopher for me, kind of as a golf coach. I think kind of growing up, I'd spend 2 or 3 hours on the range with him at McCormick, and we'd probably spend an hour working on the golf swing, and an hour and a half, 2 hours just kind of talking about the game. How to get yourself around a golf course, what's the mindset kind of looking like, to kind of grow with him and see my tendencies, and being able to, now necessarily be on the road and not see him as much as I would like, but to have, be able to kind of solve my issues and know my tendencies when I'm out there is definitely something, and kind of figure that out during the round, something that's very useful for sure.
What a fascinating relationship, because a lot of player-coach relationships are very technical and they're swing-oriented. It sounds like you guys have been a really good match, Matt, since you were 12, 13 years old. I wonder if you were a little predisposed to thinking about the game in the same way that Dave did, even when you were younger.
Oh yeah, I mean 100%. He's very, he doesn't like, I call him old school, but he's definitely a very old school coach. I didn't grow up with look at my swing on videos with a camera. It's like, you just look at the ball and see how it's flying, and that's what it's doing. And people played a lot of really good golf before the TrackMan or the quad was invented and all this camera technology. So I mean, there's definitely something for that. To be said for that type of style of teaching and playing the game and being a little bit more of an artist rather than a robot. I think it brings a lot of creativity to it, and makes it more fun for me than just necessarily trying to zero everything out and be perfect all the time. I mean, you're never going to be perfect. Just try to get as good as you can get and see how far that'll take you.
I love that. I feel like part of the artistry of the game often has been stripped away, especially in young players who have just learned it in a very concrete way, and they have a hard time deviating from that style. But it seems like you allow yourself a little more freedom, and eventually that is what kind of defined your game when you were in position to win, right?
Yeah, and I think, like the big thing with Dave is he's never really tried to, make any necessary changes to my swing, just kind of take away interferences. And kind of, I've always grown up kind of playing that little natural draw and kind of shaping shots that way and just seeing the ball come off that way. And I think when you get in contention and you're very comfortable with how you play the game, it's definitely helpful in those, high intensity moments, and really being able to trust yourself and just kind of visualize what shot you need to hit. I think it's a huge thing coming down the stretch, and probably something I didn't truly realize until the last 6 months. That's been a huge, factor with my development, and, being able to take that into this year was a huge, huge help for sure.
A lot of players, particularly young players, Matt, will find it difficult to resist the urge to change something even after they've won, which always sounded counterintuitive to me. I mean, you've gotten to where you've always dreamed of being, and then you can't help but thinking, I can be even better and I've got to do something differently. It sounds to me from what you're saying like you and Dave are not going to sort of wander down any unfamiliar or troubling paths here.
No, I mean it's refining everything and continuing to add things in certain shots of, maybe not trying to see the ball turn left to right as much, for some certain shots and courses that you'll need out here. And but yeah, just, being comfortable with what you're doing, I think is the most important, and then just kind of going from there and figuring out what works best for you for sure. And we obviously, the relationship we have and the dialogue that we have between each other is very helpful. That there's a lot of trust there, so it's good.
You're 429th in the world golf rankings a year ago, 47th now, or maybe just inside the top 50. That's a remarkable meteoric rise. It's a lot, but it's allowed you to sort of shape some goals for this year. I know you're trying to play your way into a couple of these elevated big money signature events, right?
Yeah, that's the goal. And I mean, I think the big goal at the end of the year is, finish top 50 and getting those elevated events for next year. Definitely. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot nicer not having to make a cut at Kapalua and have it was pretty sweet out there. So, but then having the opportunity to compete in all the majors and kind of forging my schedule around those and trying to peak in March, April, June, July, August. It's a very exciting thing. So it'll be a lot of fun, and I'm just looking forward to all the experiences ahead. And it's the ultimate challenge out here. So it'll be a lot of fun.
You're playing the Masters, you're playing the U.S. Open, you're playing the Players' Championship. Big things ahead, my man. It's got to feel good, even though it's a lot of work, in preparation for those events, but it's got to feel good, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's why what you dream of as a kid, and why we're all out here, and spend the long hours on the range and on the road and away from home and everything. So this is very excited for sure.
He is the Korn Ferry Tour Player of the Year, and he's a PGA Tour member now, competing this week at the Sony Open in Honolulu. You can find him on X at Matt McCarty 21. Matt, good to chat with you. Thanks for doing this, and have a great week. We'll be watching.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate having me on. Thank you.